everyone. Welcome to Happy to See Me, the podcast that puts the spotlight on the overlooked and underestimated. I'm Erika Casupanan, and this week I'm speaking with Aurora Matrix from Canada's Drag Race Season 4. I love to start each episode talking about something I was happy to see this week. So this year, I have made a goal to only buy 15 clothing items. So that includes clothing, shoes, and accessories. And I bought my first item this week. So the reason why I set this goal for myself is one, even though I love clothes so much, I have lots of clothes. And I also just want to be more mindful about how I'm consuming things and making sure that I'm not spending a ton of money on stuff that I don't necessarily need and that I don't really need to, bring home. So the first item that I bought is from this Toronto brand called Raunchy Packs, and it is this leather patchwork looking fanny pack. So Raunchy Packs, all of their stuff is made from upcycled materials and they're handmade in Toronto. And the way that I ended up getting this fanny pack was months ago, I was at the One of a Kind show, which is like this multi-day craft show in Toronto where there was many creators and makers and designers showing off their stuff. I had seen all of these fanny packs there, but unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to check them out at that time. So I'm like, I'll follow them on Instagram and then eventually I'll go and check them out. A few weeks ago, I didn't realize that I entered an Instagram contest because I voted in a poll. And then a few days later, I got a DM saying that I had won a Raunchy Packs keychain and they were going to send it to me. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is probably the sign that it's time for me to go back and check out those fanny packs. So I said, don't bother shipping it to me. I'll come to you, to your studio, and have a look at some of your stuff. So I was able to try on lots of fanny packs and picked out this one that was leather patchwork with purple patches. And I will share that on Instagram. So by the time you watch this, this will probably be on Instagram. And it was just so cool to be able to buy straight from a local designer. I'm really fortunate that in Toronto, I have access to small businesses, local creators, local designers. And when I can, I love to be able to buy from local designers. And I love to be able to meet the people and hear their backstories and why the work that they do is something that they're so passionate about. And yeah, it's nice to be able to know that if I'm going to be spending money on my 15 items in the year, at least it's going to somebody who is in my community and I can buy something a bit more higher quality because I'm not going to be buying a lot this year. So love being able to support a small business, especially a small Asian business, and love the serendipity of finally getting a fanny pack after getting the keychain. I feel like with so many of the clothes that I love, there's like some story behind them, but whatever. I love clothes. So that's what I was happy to see this week. And if you are interested in following the next 14 items I buy this year, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to share that on social media. So speaking of creatives from Toronto, it is my pleasure to be speaking with Aurora Matrix today. Aurora was the runner-up on Canada's Drag Race Season 4. I have been a fan of her from the local Toronto drag scene for years, and seeing her on Canada's Drag Race, we all had the pleasure of being able to experience her performance, her lip syncs, and her beautiful Asian drag that is inspired by her Chinese culture. So in this conversation, we talk about what it's like for her to be representing her Chinese culture in her different runway looks. We talk about what it was like on her Canada's Drag Race experience and some of the proudest moments from her journey. And we talk about the journey in getting her Asian parents to support her career as a drag queen. If there are any queer Asian people listening, or even people who are the children of immigrants, you know that this can be a challenge. And it's incredible to hear where Aurora started and where she is at now in that journey. So let's just get into it. Here is my interview with Aurora Matrix, and I hope you enjoy it. It's been such a delight to see you on Canada's Drag Race.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I mean, like, it's weird watching it back too. So I'm just as shook seeing myself on TV.
Well, I am not surprised at all that you were on Canada's Drag Race. I've seen you perform a few times in Toronto before then. And I even remember seeing you. It was in 2022. It was at Miss Mosa's Drag Brunch, and Irma Gerd was there. They both had just been announced as being on season 3 of Canada's Drag Race. And I remember
Mhm.
turning to my friend and I was like, how come Aurora is not on Canada's Drag Race?
Yeah, I do remember that because I mean the purple hair is kind of hard to
Oh,
miss.
thank you.
And also Miss Mosa was giving you attention, so I was like, should I be giving her attention too? And guess what? We're here on the podcast
I know.
now.
Well, yeah, after that day, I had posted stories of your performance, and then you DM'd me saying thank you. And then I DM'd you, and I've said, thank you. You're a rising star. Can't wait to see what's next.
So my success is all thanks to you.
No, no,
Thank
no,
you
no.
so much.
The next message in the DM was then me being like, hey, will you please be on my podcast? So I'm like, oh, it's
Oh my
funny how things
God.
change in 2 years.
No, truly. I mean, yeah, even in 2 years, that's such a big difference.
Was it your first time applying for Canada's Drag Race for season 4?
It was. So I had made a promise to myself that I was going to finish school first and then audition. So I was very strict with that on myself, and I was like, you know what? If they cast me, it'll be when the time is right. I also told myself like when I'm able to audition, that's when the time is right. So everything worked out in my favor, and I'm so grateful for that.
So that was your first time. Okay, so what did you do in school?
So I went to school for the acting conservatory. So I was a theater major, weaponizing our BFA. You know the whole shindig.
Okay, so then you were always a performer even when you were a little kid. Like when did that begin?
Oh yeah, I mean like my parents were surprised that I was gay, but they put me in choir, they put me in like Chinese like dance, they put me in like musical theater, like it was just all stuff that was like here's choreography, learn it. Here's the sheet music, learn it. I played piano, I played violin. I feel like I had like kind of that classic like quote unquote Asian household life where it was like all the extracurriculars and everything, and it was always very performance and musical based.
I love how your parents were surprised that you were gay when basically they set you up with all of the activities. It's like, come on.
Absolutely.
They if you weren't already gay, they probably like set you up to be
Oh,
gay.
100%. Like they could have put me in math tutor. They could have put me in like fucking competitive sports, but no, they decided to put me in all of the arts. And they were surprised. So, here we are today.
Was it you that showed interest in the arts or your parents were like choir is the thing?
um Maybe a bit of both, because like I went to like a Chinese Montessori, like a Chinese preschool, so like it was already just like we had Chinese classes, and then we also had painting in the same afternoon, and then we would play piano. Like it was already very performance based, just through my preschool. So I think they saw that it was something that I excelled in, and decided, hey, if they're gonna continue with that, might as well put them in proper like training or proper classes. So that's kind of how it all started. I feel like.
Yeah, it's so clear seeing you perform that you do have some type of that arts background where there's so much grace to the way that you perform. Like even when you're doing a pop song and it's high energy, there's something that's so beautiful about the flow. Did you dance when you were a kid too?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I like I said on the show, I've never done like a formal dance class prior to going on to the filming of Drag Race. Um, I've always done like choreography based dance. So it's just like, oh, doing the school play. They're literally just teaching the dance. I don't really not have like the background or the technique down, but like I'm really good at imitating what the dancers tell me to do, and then I'll just do it. So that's kind of what I excel at. And a lot of people have told me that like watching my lip syncs, watching my performances, they really see that all the movements kind of flow together. It's not just like here's a move, okay, here's
Hmm.
another move. Like it kind of has like a journey and like a story to it.
So you taught yourself basically all of that.
I guess. Like, I mean, all of my tricks, like a cartwheel, a split, all of those things, like, I saw other people do them and I was like, oh, I want to know how to do that. So I remember being in like primary school, elementary school, in the schoolyard doing cartwheels and doing like a back bend and figuring it out because I was like, well, I want to do that too.
Oh my gosh. You were such a little baby when that happened.
Oh, 100%. Like, part of my body knew that I wanted to be moving and dancing. And I always say, like, there are dancers and then there are people who can dance. I wouldn't even consider myself a dancer just because I don't have the training. But I'm definitely someone who can dance. I can feel the music, feel the rhythm. I also feel like being in choir kind of taught me about musicality and, like, actually knowing what goes into, like, creating music. So I played all my strengths, used those resources, and yeah, I'm very happy with where I am now with the way that I perform and all that.
Okay, well, you fooled me. I for sure thought that you had danced at some point, at least technically trained. Who knows?
Maybe in the
Great
past
job
life.
at fooling me.
Thank you.
So, when it comes to drag, then, when did you start to take an interest in doing drag?
Ooh. I guess maybe like end of high school was the beginning the of what is Aurora now. In my 12th grade second semester, my drama teacher, because I was in the drama program, he was like, okay, for the rest of the semester we're going to be just doing an independent study, so you choose what you want to do, you create your own rubric, your own curriculum. So he looked at me and went, so you're going to do drag, right? Because he knew that I had an interest in Drag Race and watching it, and that was kind of like the beginning of my queer evolution, I would say, my little level up of like realizing who I am. So he kind of nudged me, my teacher nudged me to try it out. So for my final project, my curriculum rubric was that I would put on a full performance at the end of the semester. So for like 3 months, I was learning how to dance in heels. I was learning lip sync songs. I was creating my own mix, figuring out how to do a look. Looking back, I was barely in drag. I was like, the touch of makeup I had, the flat wig I wore. I mean, I'm wearing a flat wig now, but just like, it was just like, it didn't matter the quality of what I was doing. It was more being able to do it that got me into the art of drag. So yeah, the beginning of high school or end of high school was when I started showing interest in drag.
So, your first performance as a drag queen was for a high school assignment, basically.
Yeah, like technically, if we count it as that, then yeah, that is my first performance. But other than that, my first performance was at Woody's. Did a little open stage, it was all the rage. And I feel like that's kind of how most people in the city here get their start.
You're quite young. You're 23, so I think you're still a baby. So, congratulations on everything that you have achieved since. When did you start drag? It must not have been that long ago if you're only
No, it hasn't.
23.
I just celebrated 5 years, which I'm like, whoa,
Congrats.
5 years is forever. Thank you. But also, 5 years isn't really that long ago. Like, I was in first year university, 2019. It was January, and I had heard that there was an open stage at Woody's. Lo and behold, it was Priyanka that was hosting it. So it's kind of like cool full circle moments. And Jada Shada Hudson, also from season 3, was there. Miss Mosu was there. Both Miss Mosu and Jada booked me based on what they saw in my first performance. So I'm very proud of that. And I
Wow.
thought like, whoa, like I really found the right time, the right momentum right off the bat.
Wow. So that's what it was like for you to break into the local drag scene then. You just made
Yeah.
an amazing first impression.
Well, also at the time I wasn't fully of age. So like, my introduction to the gay village in Toronto was doing drag. I kind of jumped into the deep end. I didn't get to experience just going out to the bars and partying and drinking, whatever. Like, I just went straight to the stage. So, again, my body knew. I knew in deep down that this is what I wanted to do.
Wow. So then between your high school end of the year performance and then going to Woody's in your first year of university, that's not a ton of time. So did you really start to train yourself in terms of your performance and your makeup in that few months?
Yeah, like, in like, in high school, whenever there would be like dances or anything, like once that dance circle, the dance circles at the dance.
Mhm.
Like, once a dance circle comes on and a certain song hits, like, I was always in the dance circle, like, dancing to it, lip syncing, even though it wasn't technically a lip sync performance. So, like, that was already, like, in my body. Like, I already, like, knew how to do that. And then the makeup I started around, like, 2016. I would just play with makeup. I loved experimenting with it. So by the time I actually did drag, I already had maybe, like, 3 years of makeup experience. before even starting drag. So I like to say that I didn't necessarily have an ugly phase when I first
No,
started
you're very
because
beautiful in and out of drag.
thank you. So yeah, like I kind of brought the love of makeup and the love of theater together to create Aurora.
Congratulations for figuring that out. And also for being self taught in terms of makeup. I find as an Asian person, back in the day, it was really hard to try to follow video tutorials because I'm like, oh, no one quite has the same skin tone or the same shape of their face or the same shape or the same shape of their eyes. So
Tell me
congrats.
about it. Like I have very hooded eyes.
Mhm.
So like I don't have much eyelid versus uh like a standard eye might have more of like a deep socket or something. Like I don't have that. So I remember like watching tutorials and trying to follow them and being like, "Well, why isn't this working on me? Like it's not doing I'm doing the same thing." Um until I started figuring out like what works specifically for my eye shape and what complements it. So now I feel like even since filming the show, my makeup has evolved so much more. It's gotten so much draggier and bigger and sharper lines. And I'm kind of on that like bandwagon right now, like going back into the big makeup. I'm like, I kind of love the theatrics of it. Like throw on a little glitter. Why not? It's drag.
Exactly. The bigger the better, right? This is what you can
Exactly.
get away with. So
And I'm performing on bigger and bigger stages moving forward. So I'm going to have to paint bigger for the back row.
yeah, she's growing, okay?
Oh, I'm
You
trying. I'm
we
trying.
love Woody's. We love that Woody's was the starting point, but it's not our fault or we can't blame you if you have to go to somewhere bigger.
From Woodies and crews to arenas and stadiums.
The Aurora Matrix story.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's gonna be my memoir.
Well, I want to ask you about your drag and the Asian inspiration that you have in all of your looks. I think that that's something that really sticks out. And I know many Asian gay men who love to see the culture represented in all the drag you do. So, when you started doing drag, did you want from the very beginning to be integrating your Chinese culture, or was that something that you kind of grew into?
I feel like that's something I grew into. And I feel like 2 years ago, I would have been so like nervous to say that because I'm like, oh, I feel like I should be so adamant about it and all that. But like, no, like I had to like learn to appreciate my own culture and I learned that like it doesn't matter what I do when I perform. Like people want to come and see me perform. So if I'm gonna do an Asian number or wear an outfit that's inspired by a classic Asian silhouette, that's for me. Like I don't have to do that for other people. And I feel like throughout the years I started finding my own style, realizing that my Asian culture meant so much more to me, not just out of drag, but in drag too. So it definitely has been a journey, and I'm so proud of how far I've come. And even on Drag Race, being able to, like, I think at least half of my whole package was at least some type of Asian inspiration, which I think is so cool. I'm glad that I'm able to say that. And who knows, like, I have so many more Asian looks that I want to do that I'm like, oh, maybe once I start getting more bookings, more money coming in the bank, I can really get these cool, big, extravagant looks fully realized.
Hint, hint, everyone book Aurora so we can get the bigger and better looks.
If you want good content, I need money to fund it.
One of my friends, he's a Chinese gay man, and he was saying, when you interview Aurora, you have to tell her my favorite look was her entrance look, the one where you were the warrior, because that's such a common image in Chinese culture, but I had never seen it honored through drag the way that you did. Is there something from your Chinese culture that you're just itching to be able to integrate into a future look?
Ooh, yes, definitely. There's two things which kind of go hand in hand. I'm very inspired by the extravagance of Beijing opera or Peking opera, which is Chinese opera, and they do like the white face with the big blush. Like if you think of like the Mulan scene where she's getting ready to find a husband, it's very like kind of that energy. But they have really big outfits. So that's something that I really want to do. And there's also a Chinese like art form that's like mask shifting. And it's,
Ooh.
yeah, it's really cool, but it's like, it's almost like a magic trick where like they're in your face and they like move their hand and suddenly the mask is a different mask. I don't even understand how it works, but I'm working on learning how to do it.
Oh my gosh, that I already see that being something that you bring to All Stars when you eventually
Right? Like
come
that
back.
seems like such a cool like talent show kind of thing because it's like something you've never
Yes.
seen, but it's still very entertaining because you're like, wait, how is she doing that?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love to see that, and I'm sure we're going to see you on an All Stars in the future.
Oh, that's the plan. I would love to go back. I mean, I want to give myself time to grow, but who knows? Down the line, like that definitely is something that I would love to do.
I love that you are already so ready to go back. Well, I know you said you want time to grow, but you are enthusiastic about coming back because whenever I talk to people who come off reality TV, they're like, no, I couldn't bear to go back. And then a bit of time goes by and then they're ready to go back. So then,
Mhm.
what was the experience like for you in terms of filming the show? Like, was it an enjoyable experience overall?
Yeah, I feel like I have a very like different experience than most people. I'm very like lucky and very grateful that like I got to the very end. I literally did everything I possibly could. I got to show all my looks. I got to tell all my not so funny jokes. But just like that's something that is always on the back of your mind when you're going to Drag Race. It's like, oh, like how far am I going to make it? How much am I actually going to be able to show to the audience? So I feel like being able to do that was like I people got to know who I am, and I'm so proud of that.
So you were satisfied with the experience after you
Oh,
were done
so satisfied.
filming?
I came out of it like I feel like I learned a lot. I came out like more mature and I came out of it. A lot of people said that I just seemed like a different queen. I held myself differently. I truly had such a blast and I have to give credit to my sisters. Like having them there really did make the experience. Especially in the top four, us little love bugs. We're like sticking together. We're besties and all that. Yeah, I just had such a blast. It really was like a summer camp to me.
Oh my God. Congrats for enjoying that. And honestly, I feel like you had such a clean run where you had your amazing moments, there were your stumbles, but it didn't seem like it was that bad or there was that many shady sound effects or anything. Like it seemed like you had such a strong run. And then by the time it got to the final two, it could have been anybody. Like it
Hmm.
was just so amazing the talent in that season. So I'd love to hear that you were so proud of yourself. Was there a moment after you filmed the show, before it started airing, was there a moment that you were most excited to watch back?
Oh, I have been waiting so anxiously for the footage of Black Velvet, that lip sync,
Yes, yes.
because everyone on set, everyone on the crew, the production, the girls in the back who were watching, everyone said it was like a what the fuck moment when we did that lip sync. Because I knew that song was already iconic. Jujubee had done it back in what season two, season three. So I knew that song was already a big deal, but the fact that I got to do that with Nira, lip syncing for the title of lip sync assassin of the season, like I was like, there are like I've already made it here. Like this is all good. Like all I have to do is perform and do what I do best. And to have a standing ovation from the judges and for everyone to be like, that was incredible. Like, oh my god, it looks so good. You literally could not tell who won that lip sync. I was like sitting for months just like, oh my god, like, and also I knew that I didn't win it, so I'm like, I want to know how close it was. Like,
Hmm.
was it really that close? So watching it back, I'm very satisfied with how it was. And then in London, me and Nira were able to perform it together live in front of an audience, so that was a fun like callback moment to it.
I loved that episode. It was so much fun just being able to watch everyone perform right after the other. And then we got to watch you perform multiple times.
Uh-huh.
What is it like when you're in a lip sync on Drag Race? Because I know we've watched so many of them, but when you're lip syncing, are you aware of the other queen at all, or are you just focused on what you have to do?
Personally, I could not tell you what any of the other queens did while I was lip syncing. I feel like I always watch on Drag Race, and I see them like looking over at each other. I'm like, no, don't look at them. Just focus on what you're doing. Like in the moment, you really do kind of black out. It's like a shift where you're like, okay, back to show mode, and also like in Toronto, I'm used to performing so often, right? So out of nowhere, now I'm in a situation where I haven't really been performing other than like the girl group challenge or the Rusical. Like you're not really doing that much dancing. So it's kind of like getting back into the zone of like, okay, this is what I do for a living. Like this is what I can do successfully. So like the lip sync episode, for example, like I went into that going, I'm not going home this episode.
I
Like this
love
is
that.
what
I love the confidence.
right? Like I think you could see it in like in Mira's eyes, and you could see it in my eyes, where it's like we are the performance queens. Like there's no way I could go home right now. So like it's moments like that where I'm just like, yep, you just gotta autopilot it, trust your gut, go with how you want to interpret the song, and it worked out for me.
That episode was probably the most similar to what it's like in your regular drag life, right? Where it's just like
Hmm.
song after song, performance after performance. It's like the speed that you're used to.
Yeah, and especially in Toronto, because we're known for doing marathon drag where it's 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 songs in a row. So I'm like, oh, I was ready to give me the next one. Let's go. Like I don't need a refresh. Let's go. And I feel like that really shocked some of the girls because some of them are used to doing 1 or 2 numbers a night, and usually the numbers are spaced out an hour because you're waiting for all the other girls to go first. So I was like, I really went into that like, oh, I literally do this for a living. I'm prepared. I do this well. Let's go. Let's put on a show.
Oh, I love that it was something that was just in your wheelhouse and you were ready to go.
Oh, 100%.
I had read in an interview that you said that something that we didn't see on TV was that you were a lot more strategic about the competition than people think. And with your season, what made it unique is there was this introduction of the twist, the golden beaver, and now the queens had the opportunity to save somebody from the bottom. So
Mhm.
when that was introduced, could you feel like a change in terms of the vibe, or do you think that people kind of just took it in stride?
So it is known that I had an alliance with Denim and Venus. It was kind of like us trio had like a little mini one going. The second that we were off camera, off mics, and we had found out about this twist, on our little velvet couch, I nudged Venus and I wrote on the couch, "Alliance?" question mark. All she did was nod, and I just wiped it away, and that was all we ever talked about it. That was the only time we ever actually talked about our alliance. Um, and I don't know. I feel like I was very strategic, and I really played with who am I. Like when I was in the top, I was thinking we're gonna get a design challenge soon. If I save a designer, then I know that they'll have incentive to help me in the following challenges. Like things like that, where I was constantly thinking about next steps and what consequences would happen to any choices that I made.
Ooh, it's like you were playing Survivor.
It kind of was Survivor, kind of like Traders, like a little bit of everything.
So you weren't necessarily thinking, oh, how do I just get out people who are threats to me? It was more so, how do I set myself up to have the most resources later?
100%. Yeah, right on the nail.
Very smart. Would you have done anything differently strategically now that if you were to go into it again, knowing that that twist could happen?
I think I would have tried to hold my cards closer to my chest. I feel like I was very like vocal about like, oh, I would save Denim in this moment, or I would save so and so in this moment, stuff like that. I'm like, I don't necessarily have to share that. I could kind of nudge towards like, oh, I want this person, but it's just like, don't give it all away right away because it's also a reality TV show.
Yeah.
You got to keep some things behind the curtain until the right moment, you know? So I feel like watching it back, I'm like, oh, now I feel like what I did was so predictable because I knew it was coming versus like Nira, for example, we didn't know if she was going to save Denim or if she was going to take her out. Like we were like, oh my gosh, what is she going to do? And I'm like, oh, I wish I had more moments like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess it just means we can anticipate that you're going to do something that makes sense, which is not a bad thing. I think that's good for people to
No,
think that you make sense.
it's not necessarily a bad thing at all.
In the drag race experience, was there a milestone that you were really looking forward to? And then what was it like once you got to experience it?
Oh my gosh. Uh, Girl groups and the Rusical, which ironically enough are the two challenges that I won. So that even is like a little cherry on top, another little cherry on top. Yeah, like I said, I love performing, I love dancing and all that. So I was like, I really hope that we do the girl group challenge and I really hope I make it to the Rusical. And I got to do both. I got to win both and it really was like a what is my life right now? Like, oh, like dreams do come true. Like, I don't know. I was very proud of those moments, and I'm very happy that I got to do those challenges.
I want to ask you about a moment that I think stuck out for a lot of people from your season. So it was when you received that letter from your parents.
Mm-hmm.
So first, were your parents aware that you were a drag queen before you did Drag Race?
Yes. So around like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, it was during the pandemic, I had told them. And the reaction was quite dramatic. I now understand where I get my dramatics. Yeah, they didn't react well. They also didn't really understand like this versus being trans, and they were like, "Do you want to be a woman?" Like they just couldn't grasp that concept. So I think it just scared them.
Mm-hmm.
But after I had told them that I had got on the show, I think they started doing a little more research and a little more homework for themselves, and seeing the show was when they really understood, like, oh, this isn't just playing dress up. Like, this is, one, a career, two, you're reaching a different audience that we didn't even know existed. And I think that really clicked in their mind that, like, I'm serious about this, and this isn't just a hobby for me. Like, this is my job. And yeah, that moment with the letter, I literally have like the hard copy of the letter right here.
Oh my God.
It's really cute too because it has like little cats on it.
Aww.
It's like so my mom.
Yeah, so it's like stationery with little upside down cats and polka dots.
Yeah, very that. Like, it looks like a little like kid doodle of like little cats. But it just like having that moment was like, I need this in this moment. And I feel like it came at the right moment because we're so close to the end. It's the makeover challenge. I expect a family member to walk in, and then I see my best friend walk in. And I'm like, oh, well, why isn't my mom here? And then to get the letter and be like, couldn't be there, but we love you. We support you. And honestly, that's all I ever wanted. That's all I ever needed to hear. So very happy with that. And I'm like, oh, like Drag Race brought that moment together. They gave us the opportunity to do that.
Wow, I'm so happy that you got to have that. And that letter, so yeah, if anyone is just listening to this, seeing the letter on this stationery, who knew, right? Just something that's written on a stationery pad that was probably in someone's kitchen could not only resonate with you so deeply, but also with so many people who are watching.
Yeah, like even because after the finale, the top four, like we had headed to the UK for DragCon, and a lot of people of Chinese background or Asian background just said like, just seeing that moment was so validating, and so just hearing that there was a time where things didn't work out and we didn't see each other eye to eye, and that it had progressed and worked on, and over time we got to a place where we could mutually stand together and be like, I'm in drag, you're seeing me in drag, and you understand that this is my job and you're supporting it. Like, a lot of people said they resonated with that, and it was just really nice to see that on TV. So I'm very happy that I got that experience and I got to share that with the world.
That's the thing. It's so hopeful. I'm sure so many people would want the best case scenario where they tell their parents and right away the parents are supportive, but that's not the reality for so many people. So to see that you experienced, as you described, a dramatic reaction, and then you get to come out onto the other side of it and then have a positive reaction, I think that that's so hopeful for so many people.
We made it. Absolutely.
And can I ask, were your parents aware that you were gay before you told them that you were a drag queen?
Yeah, I came out back in high school because I knew like time would be my best friend. So I thought like, well, if I were to come out early in high school, that would give them enough time that like by the time I'm done university, and that's like at that point that was like 8 years in the future. I'm like, whoa, like at that point, who knows where I'll be? And you know what? Who knows where I'll be? Because I didn't imagine that I would be sitting here doing a podcast with Erika. So like, yeah, truly like came out early, gave them time to kind of process it, and then sprinkled in the drag, and then brought it to the TV.
So how are they now? When they watched the show back, how did they respond to all of the episodes?
Oh my god, it's been really good. They watched every single week. My mom brought her coworker to the premiere episode, the viewing party, and that was actually the first time she ever saw me in drag in person. So it was like, it was like, not only are you seeing me in drag for the first time, but you're seeing people buy tickets to an event that is featuring me. So like that was kind of like a cool flex.
Mhm.
And then yeah, they've watched every episode. They give me their opinions on what they thought, who they thought should have been in the top. A lot of times they were like, "Oh, you should have been in the top when this, and this." Or like, so it's like having it's like having your own personal cheerleaders. So yeah, they love it. They had an amazing time watching it. It was also cool for them to actually see like where the money went to, because they were like, so why are you spending so much money on this? So I think that also helped, because seeing the extravagance of everything on TV really gives them a perspective on like how big Drag Race actually is, because this is a whole world that they didn't even know about.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, I can relate to parents being apprehensive at first. I remember when I was making my Survivor audition tape, my mom was like, "No, if you go on that show, people are going to lie to you." I was like, "No, mom, that's what I'm going to do when I get on
You're
that
like, yeah, that's
show."
kind of the point.
Yeah. And then by the time I got on the show, and the show was airing, they were like coming to Toronto every week to watch it with me. So I'm like, okay, they got on board. I get it. It's probably something that's so non-traditional for Asian parents. They're like, why are our
Exactly.
kids going on TV and doing this? But then they come around.
Yeah, like doing this is so far apart from what they're familiar with and what they grew up with. So like, yeah, I think when they visually can see what you're actually doing, then it's like, ah, okay, now I have context.
Yes. And I hope that your parents were able to connect the dots and see that this is the result of everything that they did for you when you were younger, with all of the choir and the theater and the performance classes. It's like they got you to this spot to be able to now have people buy tickets to see you.
Well, yeah, they kind of built the foundation for what I am able to do now. And I always joke that like people say, "Oh, well, if you weren't doing drag, like what would you be doing?" I was like, probably still some type of performance, because I literally am not qualified to do anything else. I have lived in the theater on stage performing my entire life. Like I can't do math, I can't do science, like I'm helpless other than performance. So yeah, thanks to them, I'm where I am today, and yeah, they had a hand in that.
Yeah, exactly. Even though it was shocking at first,
Just a
they should be
little.
proud. It's like they created this, okay? This is your fault.
I know, this
Again, they
is
could have signed you up for math.
I'm their drag baby.
Yeah. Is your mom aware that she's a drag mom?
Oh, honestly, I always say like, "Mom, online now, I always call you Mama Matrix," and she's like, "Ooh, okay, I'm Mama Matrix." And I'm like, "Oh, very cute." Like, I love that. Like my cousin was over for dinner 2 weeks ago, and she texted me and she was like, "I literally have been in your house for less than 10 minutes, and your mom has already put on the lip sync episode."
Oh my god, I love that.
I
That's
was like,
so
oh,
cute.
that's cute. So she's at work telling all her friends, telling all her patients and clients. She's like, oh my gosh, like, actually, my kid was just on a show. Do you know Drag Race?
Oh my god.
It's
That's
really
so cute.
cute.
I'm sure sooner rather than later, your mom is going to be like, "So can you put me in drag and make me truly Mama Matrix?"
I think it's gonna be a couple years until we get there, but I think at one point she probably will be like, let's just see.
Yes. I
Let's
can't
just
wait.
see.
Was there anyone from the Chinese or the Asian community who reached out to you where you were really excited about their feedback or their reaction to you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, yes. Um, there is a YouTube personality, Eugene Liang of the Try Guys. And he used to work for BuzzFeed and then left BuzzFeed, created his own company with his friends, but big personality. And Eugene Liang is one of those where I was like, growing up, just watching just an Asian body be so expressive with arts and creativity and just like, just seeing that was like, oh, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And like I always say this, where I didn't have a lot of Asian role models to look up to that were very similar to me. So even before Eugene Liang came out with his coming out video, I felt an attraction to his online personality just because I felt represented. So he reached out, he sent me a message, and I was just like gobsmacked. And he was just like, it's great to see like all this Asian excellence on the screen. You're doing amazing, very proud of you. And just like a quick little message like that changed my world. I was like, holy crap, like I'm reaching people that I used to idolize and now they're seeing my art and they're appreciating it as well.
Oh my God, that is so cool. Yes, I remember the Try Guys. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, I've heard you talk so much about representation.
Hmm.
And now, do you feel like you're a role model?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'm so aware of the fact that people are watching anything I tweet, anything I post, anything I say on live, people will be listening and I'm so aware of that and I'm working on making sure that like I'm always spreading positivity, spreading good vibes, I'm always promoting the best things. Like I just want to make sure that like I'm always giving out the content that people will either learn from or that they'll be inspired by, and especially to the Asian community. Especially in Toronto here, we have Yo Homo, we have New Ho Queen, we have these organizations that do focus on Asian representation or just celebrating Asian bodies, and that's something that I want to keep working on moving forward with my drag career.
You said that there weren't a lot of Asian people on TV or on screen that you related to. So now that you are that role model and you get to be that person, is there like a specific message or something specific that you really want to portray that you wish you saw when you were younger?
Oh, it's so cliche, but like the saying, it gets better, it truly does. And I feel like I'm such a good representation of that. Like, I came from such a traditional and religious background and an only child. So, like, my parents were very, like, all over me when it was with anything I did. And I really did not think that I would be at a place at this place right now 10 years ago. I thought I was going to be closeted forever. I felt like there was no love possible for me. I felt like my relationship with my parents could never be the way that it is now. So looking back on that, I'm like, wow, like I wish back then I would just say, it gets better. It truly does. And you just got to hold on to that. So I guess that's kind of my message is like, it gets better. Everything just takes time and patience. And it really is like a two-way street. That's what a relationship is. With my parents, when they started to put effort into learning about my queer side, learning about drag, that's when they actually started understanding it and it wasn't as scary for them. So it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. And even as you said, it's a two-way street. On the show, it was so clear that you're so willing to accept where your parents are now too. Because it's hard. I'm sure it was hard when your parents at first didn't understand when
Mhm.
you told them you're a drag queen, but it's so clear that you're willing to like accept that that's where they were then and this is where they are now, and you want to move forward and make that relationship better too. And I think that that's an amazing thing to model for young people.
Because I understand that like my parents grew up in a different generation where like they never even encountered any of this, like none of this existed to them. So I can't blame them for how they were raised because they were taught what their parents were taught. So I'm glad that I'm able to show them a different side of what is in this world, what I want to do with my life, and showing them that like a career in the performing arts is a career. Like I can make money doing this and people want me to do this. They see what I do and they're inspired by it. They love watching me do it. So I think that really gave them that nudge of like, okay, we got to get behind this because I think it's very clear to them now that like if they're not on board, then they're not on board. That's not my business. I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do. So if you want to join in on this journey, be my guest. And I think they're taking that invitation to come with me on this journey and to learn about my drag as I continue to grow.
And plus, with what you do, it honors your heritage so much. Like, how can they not want to be part of that journey?
I think that's such a big part.
Hmm.
Like, even like when I was preparing for the show, I was giving my sketches to my parents as like, it was kind of like a spell check. It was like, is this accurate to what that time era was in ancient China? Or being like, do you have any inspo that I can draw from that I can send to the designers to work with? So things like that, where bringing them into the process, I think helped them kind of ease into the whole idea of doing drag and all that. And seeing that there was so much thought and effort put into it really helped them realize that, like, I take this very seriously and this means so much more than just putting on a wig and makeup.
Yeah, like it's not a rejection of the traditional Chinese culture or anything. It's just your way of celebrating it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how else to tell you I love being Chinese and I love that you taught me how to do all this, then put it into my drag.
Well, now that you have succeeded in being that queer Asian representation on screen, what do you want to tackle next?
Oh, we're gonna continue what I did on screen and we're gonna tour and we're gonna bring it to the stage. My dream has always been to perform, to be on stages, to tour, to go to different countries and travel. So now that that is an option and is something that seems like I can do, I would love to really jump on that opportunity. I mean, even this year, I'm so excited for all the different prides that are going to happen across Canada, maybe even out of the country. Just being able to spread happiness and show my drag and show why I do what I do to a live stage in a different city, like that sounds like a dream to me. So I think, especially for this year, we're going to work on traveling. We're going to work on visiting new places that I've never been to and just like sharing my drag. This is my life, and I want you to come in and join me on the journey.
Do you see yourself going back to Asia or going to China and doing
Oh,
drag?
I think that is the ultimate goal. I really want to do some type of Asian tour at some point. If not this year, then next year, and if not next year, the next. I'm gonna keep pushing on that because that is the ultimate dream to do drag in Asia. I don't care where. I just want to do it.
Yeah, it's a big continent. Any country, that works.
Yeah, if anything, that just means lots of options, right?
Yeah. And there's so much amazing Asian, Canadian drag talent. Like, headline the tour, bring all your sisters from Canada with you and take over.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, like if no one's gonna book me for it, maybe I'll just start to have to make my own show. We'll see.
I would go. I would buy a ticket. I'll be there.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'll have a seat reserved just for you.
Thank you. Well, Aurora, where can people keep up with you as you get ready for this Asian world domination?
Oh my gosh, well, I do love a little Asian world domination. I am most active on my Instagram. That's probably where I live. So you can follow me on Instagram at Aurora Matrix. All of my links to any shows I do or any upcoming projects, I always have in my link in bio. And you know I'm going to be posting about it all the time. So you're not going to miss anything if you give me a follow on Instagram. That's kind of where the news goes first, I feel like, for everything I do.
And I follow her. I have proof from our 2022 DMs.
Exactly. We have receipts, timelines, screenshots.
Aurora, thank you so much for chatting with me today. And yes, please do save me a seat on your tour.
100%. Thank you so much, Erica, for having me. I had such an amazing time, and I will have a purple seat just for you.
Thank you, Aurora, for being that queer Asian representation on screen that we need and that we love. I cannot wait to see what she does next. So, I love to answer a listener question at the end of each episode. And this week's question is, how do you maintain friendships as an adult? I am very flattered that somebody thinks that I have the authority to answer this question. I'm really fortunate and lucky that I've been able to maintain a couple friends from every phase of my life. And then now I have just an amazing community of people who I adore and I love so much. So I guess I have authority. I don't know. I'm really flattered that somebody thinks that I would be a good one to answer this question. So thank you. I will preface this by saying I am not a perfect person. I am not a perfect friend. I am not a psychologist. I am sure there have been times where I could have been a better friend. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But if you are looking for my advice on how to maintain friendships as an adult, here it is. So, one piece of advice is reach out even if you haven't talked to somebody in a while. If somebody comes to mind and I haven't heard from them in a while, or if I haven't hung out with them in a few weeks or a few months, I always just message them anyways because I find that, I don't know, when I'm in my 30s. Now I encounter a lot of people who feel like they don't have a lot of friends or feel like they don't have friends. And I think that 9 times out of 10, people are happy to be on the receiving end of someone reaching out to them and someone taking interest in seeing them. So ever since I learned that, I just reach out to somebody whenever I think of them. What's actually pretty freaky is often when I do that, the person tells me that they were thinking of me too. So can't help that I'm psychic. I don't know if I'm actually psychic. But anyhow, I always just am not afraid to reach out to somebody, and hopefully we can connect and catch up and hang out and see what goes from there. Another piece of advice on the flip side is try your best to accept invitations. I know that on TikTok, I always see people talking about how they want to be in their introvert, homebody, lazy girl, rotting era. And if that's what you want to do, all power to you. Do you? I think that everybody needs days like that sometimes, and do your thing. However, if the question is how to maintain friendships as an adult, I always try my best to accept an invitation when I am up for it and when I'm available. And I'm not always up for it and I'm not always available. But it's a way of just reciprocating the interest that a friend has in spending time with me. And through doing that, I can catch up with a friend. I can hopefully make the relationship stronger through the time that we spend together. So accept invitations when you can and if you're up for it. Another piece of advice, and I think that this is so simple, but when you are hanging out, be genuinely interested in your friends and ask questions and care about what they have to say, aka just be a good hang and genuinely be interested in the people you want to maintain your friendships with, because it can go a long way for both of you to be interested and be interested in. And then I'll say my final tip is extend the same understanding to your friends that you would like in return. So I know that as adults, we get busy. We don't have as much free time as we had before between jobs, family commitments, other personal commitments. So you might not have as much time as you'd like to hang out with friends. And you might not be able to talk to friends as frequently as you did when you were younger. And that's okay. And I have friends who I see only a couple times a year. And that's the frequency that is available to us in our friendship. And that's okay. So I think that if you want friends to be patient and know that you won't necessarily be available all of the time for them, extend that same patience and acceptance for them too. And know that if your friend isn't able to get together for a while, it's nothing personal. It's nothing that is necessarily bad about the friendship. It's just that's the season of life they're in. And then accept them when they come back or when they're available to see you again. I've definitely witnessed friendships deteriorate because I think one person has more expectations about the frequency and how often they see the other person, and the other person, because of other commitments, they're not able to deliver. So give the same patience for your friends that you would like in return. And then also make yourself as available to friends as you would like friends to be available to you. So basically, it's a two-way street. I hope that that advice was helpful. If you have any questions for me, whether it's to get to know me better or to ask me for advice, please ask me in the comments or in the podcast DMs, and I will do my best to answer in a future episode. But for now, thank you to the listener for submitting that question and for believing that I am the right person to give advice on maintaining adult friendships. Thank you. So thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Instagram and YouTube. It's at Happy to See Me Pod. Thank you for being here this week, and I will be happy to see you next Monday.